in the paper about the fact that we are redoing the David Johnson's Park, and we are gonna make it handicap accessible. So Mr. Pecorello read this one, and I'm gonna ask him to talk about what he, as a real person that's interested in that, and it's really effective, what he needs and what we should try to cover when we build that ramp accessible, whatever alley in the
So
park.
if you could just state your name and address for the record, then tell, please, and give us your input that you'd like.
Andrew, my name is Andrew Pecorella, 25 Woodland Street. My observations are based off of the report that is on the web from regarding parks accessibility, that still, even though the report was done quite a few years ago, some changes still need to be made. A lot of it regarding the gravel pathways, the grooves need to be filled in. It's very tough to get over with a wheelchair. The upper parking lot requires striping. It does not have the handicap designations for the parking spaces at this time. The rose garden, the north door, the path is not accessible, but it can be easily connected to the parking property. The curb entrance to the rose garden, the Belgian blocks are very difficult to get over somebody with a wheelchair. That could be, it needs a curb cut. And we just need to add a red gravel or appropriate path to the side of the gazebo. I don't think that these are major requests, but I certainly think for the enjoyment of everybody who uses Davis Johnson Park. And then the, is that?
The ramp.
Okay, the ramp at the back door, to the rose garden is difficult. I'm sorry, it doesn't have one, I have a picture here. But that would be helpful, we can get a ramp built.
Have these topics also been brought up with the full AFA
It has.
committee, and everyone seems to be on the same page with these suggestions and comments?
I believe so. I've gotten good feedback from my observations.
Okay, so Jewel, I guess, first off, do any council members have any comments or questions, please?
I'm a little concerned about the red gravel. Wouldn't it be more advantageous to have pavement rather than red gravel?
Absolutely, it would. That
I
just
mean,
happens.
I'm not sure how you can navigate red gravel with a wheelchair. I mean, I'm having a tough time trying to understand how that would even be.
It's not, it just happens to be what is there at the time, at this present time. But certainly a path of a better substrate would certainly be advantageous.
We're not talking, yeah, okay. That's my opinion anyway, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, Max, you want to say something?
No, I don't. I think that I'm so glad that we have people that really need and they understand. No,
Sure. So Jewel, perhaps what we do here is maybe get with Bob Culver and
Yes.
kind of look at these options, and then we come back and talk about what it might entail, what makes sense, what we can do, and what we
Because
might.
some of it I think is maintenance
Right,
oriented.
Yeah.
Right, right.
I think all of these things truthfully are items that can be fulfilled by DPW without
Right. It'll be perfect.
major expenses by the borough of Tenafly, so, which is, and it will serve the purpose and fulfill the obligations.
Excellent.
and if you look into the other parks, Andrew, and see things like that similar, and I'm talking on behalf of council, but I'm sure, bring it up to our attention. We'll be more than glad to try to make sure that at least we're trying to achieve whatever we can do.
But, you know, when I was a fire inspector for the Department of Community Affairs many years ago, in my first lifetime, I remember before we occupied a brand new building that we built, we used to bring in people in wheelchairs and let them go through the building and make any comments to us, both pro and con, so we can be able to fulfill any obligations that could be met. And I think that would be certainly advantageous for yourself, that if you can go to any public building, any, facility that the borough owns, and make any recommendations to us would be very well received, and we would look forward to being able to help in any way we can, for sure.
I'd be pleased to do that.
And please, don't feel shy in doing that, okay?
See, everybody's trying to help.
Yeah, we need the input, we all can't
Absolutely,
be
yeah.
everywhere all the time,
No, no.
so we
And
need the input.
and we have no skills to
Right,
understand
right,
that.
right.
No, I think
Certainly.
this is really the function of the committee, the access committee, is to go out and be able to have our experience go out and make those assessments.
Right,
And bring them back for whatever adjustments need to be made.
no, certainly, absolutely.
Okay, thank you for your
Okay.
time this evening.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
We'll address
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you wanna see any of the pictures that we took on phone, so you can better
Sure.
understand.
I would, please.
Yeah,
Let's show the jewels, so.
okay, so it's here
The
and then two more
north
to
door
the
is
right.
the archway one, right? The grass in
I
the
believe
parking
so.
lot.
This
Oh,
is-
yeah,
this-
sure.
Yeah, this is what we're
Right,
doing
right.
with the grant.
Okay.
Well, there's the steps there,
Right,
okay.
this
The
is
one-
gonna be affected by the grant, right?
This one is, if they have an event inside the building, the people can't come out of the building at the back door, there's
Okay.
stairs up,
Oh, I'm sorry.
stairs up
Granddaughter?
both ways.
Or daughter?
Yes,
I
granddaughter.
thought we finished. Oh, no, we did the bid.
Okay, and
Well,
then-
fortunately, we're aware of the worst, this is this
Yeah.
is the ramp that's being replaced.
Yeah,
Those
Oh,
were the
excellent.
funds that you saw
Mhm.
referenced. And the 19.5 is 50% of the cost, we put up the other 50%.
Okay.
Okay.
But this, to the rose garden
Bushes
from
pointing
him,
up.
from the driveway, he
Mhm.
can't get over that,
Okay.
those Belgian blocks, they could just be.
Yep.
And you really don't have to do anything to those stairs, you could just make it accessible through, from the rose garden, and as he was saying, make a path like that to the gazebo.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
thank you.
So, sorry, because Andrew can't use his hands, I
Okay.
can kind of help
Thanks
him.
for coming, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Jewel, the next item is the 2017 budget schedule. Do you want to walk us through that?
Sure. Well, no, this is actually what council requested.
Yeah, what we requested was to kind of discuss
Oh,
the
Some parameters.
parameters for
Oh,
this,
okay.
for this budget. Okay, it would be good, we thought at the beginning, if you had a chance to enter in Edmonds most of the expenses to know where we are. I don't believe that we have that, yes?
They're not in Edmonds, we rolled up in an Excel worksheet, next year they'll be in Edmonds.
Okay,
Next year?
Yeah. This year, they're still the same way they were last year.
Okay.
all right.
We are working in Edmonds,
Actual.
but the budget is the same way as last year,
Okay,
next year when we
okay,
get used to the
okay.
system.
Gotcha.
So-
We'll be doing the budget in
Timing,
Edmonds.
If-
just the timing.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, if I,
Go ahead, if you have a question, go
okay,
ahead.
all right, so the whole idea is to start to understand the budget before we get to the point where it's already done. We all know that we have like a 2% limit on the maximum that we have. But for the last 3 to 4 years, we are very good in keeping the budget, except for the last year, under 1% increase. And one year was 1.6%, the previous 1.9, 0.7. We have additional expenses that came up as a result of a few things. We have $100,000 in expenses, maybe not, maybe $60,000 in expenses that we're gonna have from the addition of the bus expenses and the person that we just hired in order to get the, I forgot the official name for
The
the.
driver, you mean?
No, the
Senior
driver,
Services Committee.
the reaching out,
Well, we refer to it as the age-friendly edition.
age-friendly
Oh.
edition, okay.
Um,
The, also, this year, the contracts for almost all the entities are gonna be around 2%. That's what we budgeted in our contracts and stuff like that. The police department specifically will have a 3.6% increase in the salary budget, which is 1.5% from the agreement that a lot of people are gonna get, the people that are not in steps are gonna get their increases, and the step people are gonna add almost a 2% addition to the entire process. So there are a lot of pressure on the budget. So what I'm asking is, if it's possible, each department that has, besides expenses in salaries, additional expenses, to be able to keep their total expenses under the 2%, and hopefully with the addition of the additional income from the increased revenue because of the new houses, exactly, we will be able to go back to be way under 1.5%. And there are capabilities to manage the overtime if we have to, in order to keep the budget within what we're trying to do. A capability to budget additional expenses. So we would like, I personally would like, by the time we get through the budget process, and you usually show how much is the increase for salaries, how much increase for, or to separate each one of them so we can work on them separately to make sure that we keep the total budget within a reasonable increase.
Okay, Max, I can tell you right now
Yeah,
that we're gonna not be able to go any lower than 1.9%. I had to cut $365,000 from this budget. It was at 5.5% over. I even took a little bit of salary out of my budget. I took, we had, the senior services committee
Yeah.
was over $100,000. There was, additional legal fees. The thing that saved us was that the state remained flat in health insurance contribution, our premiums. And if that didn't happen, it would have been way over.
okay. Today, we're gonna discuss different contracts that we are farming out.
And yes,
I'm gonna discuss with it, and I would like the council to consider that some of those contracts might not have to be, to start to look at that. I was at the Chamber of Commerce dinner, sitting at a dinner with 2 or 3 very well-to-do people who told me something that was so troublesome, very troublesome. All of them are taking courses at the classes, whatever you want to call it, at the senior center. And we are charging not a lot of money, but we're charging $20, $25 or so for classes at the senior center. And they were embarrassed that some of the people were saying, oh, I have to take 3 classes, there'll be $60. Oh shucks, I cannot do that, I cannot afford that. When you go to Cresskill or Gloucester, you can take those classes free. And in the borough of Tenafly, one of the wealthiest around, people have to make the decision not to take the classes because they cannot afford. They are, the senior people are in fixed income and they cannot do it.
So could I ask a question? I just want to interrupt for a second, because I'm under the impression that with all of our, and I'm not arguing about the
Yeah.
economics and,
Yeah.
the example, that for all of our programs, if anyone has a problem with
That's correct.
cost,
That's correct.
we waive it or we
That is correct.
They are
find a
ashamed,
way.
they are ashamed to say.
Well,
So maybe,
If we can find a way to do so and make it clear in public that anybody that cannot afford them, in a public way, not, we will waive the cost. They will be very well.
No, I mean, that's a very valid, I think you're right on that. I think we probably need to have a conversation directly with the senior center
Yes,
director to understand how often that's happening
yeah,
and whether we're communicating our policy sufficiently, because certainly we don't want that to happen. Everyone should be included.
exactly.
So that conversation needs to happen with
Yeah,
them.
Just,
Go ahead, Julie.
just keep in mind that the operation of the senior center is split between the borough and the nonprofit
Right.
entity that runs the senior
Right.
center.
Yeah,
So we have to have that conversation with them.
exactly.
Okay.
Because I felt compelled to have this conversation
No,
here.
that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, because there's something like that. And I think that we should start today, because today we have the first round of contracts being doled out. To start looking at those numbers today before we start. As a matter of fact, probably we should not have, in my mind, we should not send out any contracts for the year before our budget is already agreed upon, and each one of the department heads has a chance to look at them and discuss with us the budgets.
Well, that becomes a little, I mean, we've
Which
got some.
contracts are we talking about?
Yeah,
We're talking
these-
about the,
Resolutions.
you
The-
look at the resolution, you're gonna see all the
Yeah.
contracts, so
These-
we,
We don't have a gap in coverage.
exactly.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't wanna have, I mean, these, like the four in the center here, the rat control, nursing, health and alcohol.
Those one I would like to discuss when it comes to that.
That's fine, we
because-
could just, but those are public safety issues, we'll talk about the details at that point, okay?
At the point, yes,
So we
Drug
understand.
testing.
all
Pardon
right.
me?
Oh, drug
Do that
testing.
Right, drug testing, some of
Sorry?
those health issues, we can't,
I have in mind specifically the
Avoid.
nursing and stuff like that, yes, I do. And I'm looking also at the additional contract that we give out, 3 different contracts for affordable housing trust fund, special housing planner, special housing council, and third round housing fair share plan. I mean, so many of those guys, we're spending a ton of money. Maybe we can look to do something without having 3 types of councils on each one of them.
They're all different functions.
That's what we should be able to look at and understand.
okay, so we'll discuss it under the resolutions. Any other comments on the budget from anyone? Okay, let's move on to the administrator's report, please. Jewel? So,
Okay, you have the memo, just a couple of updates that came in after. Number one is that we are still assisting Englewood Cliffs with the not code enforcement, but construction official duties until February 2nd. They came back to us and asked us if we could possibly give them an extension. They have completed their interview process, and they have on their schedule to appoint someone at their council meeting on February 2nd. I've, agreed, but I've agreed only in consultation with Bob Burns to make sure that it didn't cause any problems for him here. The other thing is, we talked last time about the directives that we have from the court for coverage by the court administrator, and we just this evening received the documentation from Creskill. I thought that they were going to use, there were 2 options. One was an agreement that both communities signed, but they went with the order format, which means that we now have our order for Creskill to cover Tenafly, and we will have to complete a comparable document for
Order to cover what, I'm so sorry.
the municipal court administrator.
So they have an order to cover in case, okay,
because we all have to cover for each
We all
other,
have to
or
cover
hire
for each
additional
other.
people, right?
Right,
yeah.
okay. So I'll get that
So we're gonna
completed.
share that cost between the 2 of us.
Well, when you say share the cost, if their administrator is here, then we pay their administrator. And if our
Vice versa.
administrator works there, then they pay our administrator.
It's a substitute.
It's the same
Say-
judge.
say-
Yeah.
Okay. With regard to the overall memo, the budget hearing schedule, has been, filled out and attached. The dates are the ones that, were, agreed to here, Saturday, February 11th, Wednesday, which is an evening, February 15th, Saturday, February 25th, and then finally the auditor will be here on Tuesday, March 14th. So you see the various departments that and their assignments. We will be publicizing this, the timing is right so that we can put the schedule in the newsletter. It will also be on the website. The joint use, we had our meeting last month. We actually have another meeting coming up, January 30th. And we are now in the process of having followed up on the various items that we discussed there. Bill has been working in conjunction with the Board of Ed attorney to finalize the swim club parking lot agreement. We're scheduled to look at that one more time on the 30th.
So we're gonna see that before the board approves it, so we don't go around in circles if we don't like something about it.
They are now in possession of my revisions to their last draft. And my revisions incorporate what we wanted.
Okay.
And a couple other things also that I just put in, I thought were
Okay.
necessary.
From a timing perspective, we would definitely see it at the meeting on January 30th. We also have a meeting on February 7th. The board indicates that they would like to approve it at their February 14th meeting. So we have opportunity.
When is the council gonna see that?
February 7th.
Well, that's already, I mean, Jewel already has my version that I sent on to the board attorney last week.
But we don't have their comments to that yet, so we're still
No,
not done.
that's the thing, we don't have their
So,
comments.
again, the question is, I hope you're not gonna do, we're not gonna be on January 7th, here's the
Right.
contract, sign it.
Well, you could see it, you can
That's
see
what-
it now if you want.
That's why I'm asking for
If we don't have comments from the board, what do you want me to do?
I want
Do
you
you
to
want
send
it
it
now?
out
I mean, you could
as
have,
soon as possible, that's the whole idea.
Right, I think we need to see it with the comments from the board, not just our version of it, right?
if I don't have their comments
So
before,
we can't approve anything until we see the contract. I mean, that's just makes sense.
right, I mean,
That's all.
that's,
So
Basically,
February 7th, Max, is the tentative date, which we'll get a chance to see it
Okay,
and decide whether we like on it. If they don't deliver it to us by then,
but what I'm saying, our meeting is on February
7th,
7th. Hopefully, you're not gonna come and say, this is the contract
Right.
signed.
right.
right,
If they should give
We're
it
all
to
in
us on
agreement
January
with that.
7th, we're gonna talk on that February 24th, whenever our next meeting
Go
is.
ahead, Dan.
Just push it back another
We just push it back, correct?
Exactly, that
We're all in
was the
agreement with
point
that.
we learned already a lesson on,
We're all in agreement with that.
good.
Okay. And then the other items that will be reviewed at the joint use meeting, include the addendum for the IT technology services agreement. It's really very basic. Essentially, it's extending the timeframe and continuing what I think is a very reasonable 2% annual escalator for the services that they're providing, which now also, as you know, include a voice over IP phone system. And yet the board has been very generous. They have not proposed to increase the base contract based on that additional service. And then-
That should cost less. The whole idea is replacing a system that costs more with a system that costs less. So there should be savings for the town and for whoever gets a new system. That's the reason they implement that.
No, because the basic agreement is, the phones are basically an add-on, and that's the point. They're not increasing the cost of the IT coordination and management because of the phones.
So they didn't maintain the phones before for us.
Correct,
Okay, so it's a new function, but they keep the same price.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, a good thing. And also, they will be reviewing with us, just one more time at the joint use meeting, the fiber optic cable for use in implementing the radio communications for the Tenafly Fire Department. They have asked their attorney, in conjunction with Bob Caputo, to draw up a shared services agreement. So that will also be reviewed at the meeting. Follow up on the downtown parking with the free tags. As you know, we elected to do a trial period from September first through December 31st of 2016, whereby we suspended the charge of $25 deposit per employee parking tag. The trial period was publicized with the assistance of the chamber and the local newspaper. And here you just have a summary of the additional activity that occurred during that period. So as of August 31st, the borough had 241 active tags that had been obtained with the $25 deposit. And then without the deposit, we issued an additional 63 tags from the period of September 1st through January 23rd. So basically a 26% increase. And I mean, obviously our downtown is not huge, and the majority of the businesses at this point in time have employee parking tags. There are changes as businesses change, as people occasionally lose tags. So we're really not at a very high level of activity at this point. We have maybe somebody come in 2 or 3 times a week, which is down from, I guess maybe we were getting about 9 or 10 calls a week when we had the trial period. So essentially, my office, we thought it went very well. We thought it went very smoothly. If the council is amenable to continuing the program as is without the fee, we have no objection to that.
How does everyone feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I know we'll go off script here a little. President of the Chamber is here. What's your opinion? Short opinion. Concise.
I was polling the vacant spots during the trial period, and it definitely seemed to me it was much easier to park from about mid-November on, which is when most of the businesses seem to get their act together and actually apply for the permits.
So overall, it's a good thing.
Yes,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right? So we support that.
We support that.
it got people off the parking street.
Yep.
We talked about municipal court administrator coverage, so we have received the documentation from Cresskill. There was an inquiry at the last meeting about snow melting equipment. And I did review it with Bob Culbert as requested. He provided a statement which I've incorporated here. Essentially, it's not something that he is recommending that we pursue at this time. It's a very expensive piece of equipment. He also noted that there have been times where we have joined forces with either the county or other Riverside Co-op members to purchase equipment, but typically that's equipment that's used on a discretionary basis. It's not an arrangement that works well when it's something that everyone would need at the exact same time. And that is the case with something akin to snow melting. He got into other technical aspects of it. It's not a very cost-effective piece of equipment. Not only is the equipment itself very expensive, but it's expensive to operate it with the propane. There's a lot of care that you have to extend as well using that type of gas and fuel. Those were his comments. He will actually be here at the February 7th meeting, if there is a desire to speak to him further
Okay,
about this.
that's perfect.
Okay. There was an inquiry about rock salt. I advised you that we did go through the county and, just made sure to confirm that that's still our process, which it is. And that's basically it. We had another snowstorm, and the report for that snowstorm is attached.
Can I ask you something? Go ahead first.
I got just a few questions/comments for the administrator. The first is the voucher system, the new voucher system. Apparently it's not working too well, is it?
PO system?
Yeah,
When you say not working,
well, I've had 2 vendors call me wondering where the hell their vouchers are, where their POs are. And they've been waiting for several months for their POs.
yes, we know we have some those are probably projects.
And
Right.
Yeah.
Why is that a problem?
There really isn't a problem, but I can tell you that, this transition is being done in steps. I don't know why they weren't paid last year if we would've had the invoice, cause it's only January. But we have to put the contracts in, and it's overwhelming the amount of work that we've been doing. So if you could tell me the vendors' names, the contract portion will be done probably later this week.
Does that, can I interject a question there? Does that affect the vendor's payment to them? Or how does it
Well, we're
affect
learning
it?
how to do a manual check, so if there's a real issue, we didn't get that far yet, but if there's a real issue, probably this week we could do a manual check, and it would be on the next bill list, but we really don't like to do it that way. But if there's somebody who's really pressing that needs, you know, their payment, but I'm trying to figure out, if you say 3 months, was it,
No, they're
was there a
waiting,
reason
waiting
why it
2
wasn't
months.
paid, like, in December?
Yeah, they didn't get paid in December and they haven't been paid yet.
And there's a bill.
They haven't
list.
received the PO yet.
So do we know, we have a bill list this evening, correct?
Do we know who this vendor, I mean,
Tony,
who
have you
vendor
checked the
they-
bill list to see if
No,
you?
I will do that. yes.
Okay, let's see if they're on it. If not,
Yes.
let's get that information to Susan, because
Yeah.
we don't want the vendors waiting.
No, and I could,
Cause we're certainly approving things in
Right,
the
we're
system.
we're approving the expenditures, we have the
We
money
do it a
for it, the
lot,
vendors
yeah.
should be paid right away.
Yeah,
Is it time now to talk about,
I think-
I think Tony has another,
Oh,
he
sorry.
wasn't done with his question.
Just 2 other items. I received a complaint from a resident that the DPW is doing the recycling pickup on Knickerbocker Road during rush hour, which to me is ridiculous, truthfully. I mean, Knickerbocker Road, if you've never been there on rush hour, is a disaster to begin with. When you add recycling pickup, whether it be paper and or, you know, cans and such, you're just adding misery.
you're talking about the AM rush hour?
Correct. So I would ask that maybe Bob can look at the scheduling of when the recycling is done on
Mhm.
Knickerbocker Road. Certainly, we've got numerous off-streets that they can be picking up and just wait till after maybe 10 o'clock. That would be beneficial. Saturday, I took a walk through town, and I was actually walking because I had to pick up my car, and I noticed the conditions of the brook, especially over here right by the,
By the library and
right.
the circle.
I noticed 4 shopping carts in the brook, and
Oh,
a
boy.
huge stack of UPS, you know, those envelopes, just stacked inside the brook, just pushed inside the brook.
I
Brook
mean,
is
it's in the
deplorable.
water?
Yeah.
Unused, a stack like.
Mhm.
no
Right, right.
wonder you never
can see
got
it right
your
here.
packages,
Smart.
your Amazon.
So I think that, you know, I've always asked from day one that we do something about cleaning that brook, but, I mean, okay, we can't do that, but at least we can pick up the rubbish that's in there.
Does-
you know,
And we do, this is the first time I'm hearing about the shopping carts, we've seen shopping carts there before,
You
so
just
I
go
think
by
it's
the
not
brook
unusual.
and just look to
yeah.
the right, you'll see them
Okay,
all laying in the brook.
okay.
And I was notified by a business in Tenafly. I understand that the railroad came down the railroad with some sort of like a big saw and cut all of the brush all along the railroad and just left it laying there. And I actually drove by to see it. They're absolutely correct.
Right, it's laying on the tracks?
But on the tracks.
Wherever it is.
Yeah, just like,
On the
you know, so,
sides.
like somebody drove down like with a
Right.
big, and just left it lay there. I mean, that's a heck of a practice to be doing. I mean, see us, you know,
This was the
Right.
CSX line?
that's what I was told, yeah.
Back
And
to,
I had to go see it for myself, and they're absolutely correct,
I'll have to check that out.
so.
Back to the brook issue, does DPW kind of regularly check that out on some sort of schedule, or how do we handle that?
It's not on a schedule, when we see things, we address
clean it up,
We
so,
clean them up,
okay.
yeah,
So we'll take a look at
yeah.
that.
Cause I've even seen things and called them in and things of that sort.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Max, you had a
Okay,
question?
I have, yes. First of all, on this snowfall, we spent $22,000. Do you have any idea what was our schedule for snow this year?
I'm not sure what you mean.
In the budget, you mean?
Yeah,
What
in
we
the
budgeted?
budget. Yeah, we had always we schedule like 70,000, 80,000, 100,000.
Oh, we're actually well ahead of the game. We have a snow trust, we have a storm trust.
Yes,
And, we can give you more details on it, but no, we're actually doing very well.
Yeah.
We're well below what we would typically
I know that
be.
because we only had like a 12,000 and a $6,000, which were the previous one, plus 22, that basically we are at 38, 40,000 altogether. But I wanna know what was our storm I mean, so, okay. The
So
second,
we'll, at the next meeting, we'll
On
have
the
some.
storm trust.
There's
Yeah.
the storm trust that rolls over, that's a permanent trust, it
Yeah.
rolls over
Yeah.
every year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The second part, I was trying to read the budget that you send out for approval. And in the previous systems, the way that the parks the budget was laid out was by department and by different functions within department, like repairs, rent and stuff like that. The existing budget that you have it is by PO number. By PO number, it's very difficult now to follow up, and you have within over there, you can basically sort it again by department and by function code, and then by PO. Because it's just sorting it by PO, you get one PO here from one department, one another, one from the, you can't anymore basically, and I'm sure you have to have that by department, because each department head has to make sure that they are within the certain budget that every year. So can we have the next reports, when you present to us for approval, sorted out by department, then by function, and then we can work out what was the total spent for each one of the departments. We understand everything else.
You're talking
So-
about, you're looking at the bill list?
Well, yes, you present to us for approval every month the budget.
The bill.
Like
The
the
bill
bill.
list.
Bill, it's like today,
Expenditures.
the expenditures. In the past, in the previous system, was organized like that. Existing one, I looked over there, it said sorted by PO number.
Yeah, we did question that, because that's how it sorts it, it doesn't go by department, so
But
we
you
would
can
have to-
sort it, if it says sorted, you
we'd
have multiple keys.
to customize, probably, we'd have to try to customize some report.
Exactly.
But
Otherwise-
I'd have to look into that and see what the functionality is by,
So Susan, why don't you look at that, and then let us
Yeah,
know
I
what
will.
that means.
Because otherwise
we
it's,
already said something about that, actually.
I
Okay,
appreciate, because it's impossible for us to have an idea of what the expenses are of the department and what's doing.
maybe you could produce a summary by department in addition to,
Well, I'm gonna see what,
The
there's
transaction
reports that
report.
we could customize, but I
Okay.
don't know what they are yet, but,
We're
you know,
still
we're
learning,
still
right.
learning.
All right.
So,
Okay.
one of the things that we did know with the POs was that the department is not listed, but we were gonna.
It is listed in, not in PO, but in the listing that you have, I looked over there at all the parameters. One is the department, one is the function within department, one is PO number. So once you have all those keys, the system should be able to sort by that.
Right, I'll have to find out
Yeah.
exactly what we can do.
I appreciate it. Now, the last part, and it's just gonna be, then we discuss the contracts, yeah? Remember, I was questioning a few meetings ago, the expenses that we had, and specifically, we looked at the plumbing expense in Moscone, $4,500 for it. Bob,
Albert,
Bob, was very kind, and he took me over there. And they are really, absolutely, those are, what they had to do is dig out the meters from underneath, pull them out, pour concrete, put the plumbing in, and put the meters. So they are, in my opinion, justifiable expenses. Also, I was questioning how come all of a sudden Bob has to order 45 tons of this and stuff like that, which were not in the previous. And I got all this baloney about, yeah, we didn't have, it's not, the whole idea, we had a problem in a street with a subsection, and they had to dig out the hole, almost a huge hole, which is like 20 feet down and stuff, and then they have to refill it. That's why he ordered all the fillers, all the rocks and stuff like that. So it was a well justified expense. The last one, which I didn't get yet an answer, is the $18,000 in ammunition, guns, and stuff like that from the police department. Maybe next time we're gonna be able to get see who is starting the war with. Those shotguns that we bought, 12 of them, 6 for the left, 6 for, maybe we find out something more next time.
Max,
Yeah.
the ammunition they get is for both of their use, and also they go to the range.
Twice a year.
The short shot, they
They
buy
go
shotguns.
to the range,
They
and
buy
they need to
shotguns.
use the ammunition. Unless they're shooting blanks, they need, that's
No,
all
but I'm
part of
saying they buy
the
shotguns, 12
requalification.
shotguns.
Required by federal law that they get requalified twice a year They need to use the real bullets for that,
I
just to let you
understand.
know.
What I'm asking is, if they're buying 12 short shotguns or short barrel shotguns, I'll be very curious to see what, those stuff things.
Anything else on the
That's it.
administrator's report?
Can you just also ask about the emergency tree work that was done on the 31st of December? Why we need to use Arrow Tree when we have our own tree crew?
We do, but we also have people who are out ill. Right now, our foreman is on workers' comp.
Okay, let's
So
move.
it's either wait or, and we can't put everything off.
Okay, we have resolutions this evening. Who has questions about the resolutions?
All right, so sorry to get, all right. See, when we were talking about the actual spending, in this resolution, we have,
Which one, Max?
I'll start with you. Authorize expenditure for Affordable Housing Trust Fund, authorize expenditure for Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and this third one also for now. There are three type of councils. One is Special Affordable Housing Planner, the other one is Special Affordable Housing Council, and the third one is the Third Round Housing Elements and Fair Share Plan.
Which is what they come up with, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and if you look in the resolution themselves, I looked at them to read them. One is for $10,000 for this is the lowest one, which is to cover the expense for the lawyer for the planning board, which we understand that very well.
Jeff Zen.
Jeff Zen, exactly. Then the other one is for, for planning for the Affordable Trust Fund, and the other one is for special, whatever we call it. Let me just exactly read it.
That's
for
the COA council.
It's another $20,000. So altogether, we're looking at $40,000 in the, now that we are fighting pennies. I think we should look at if we can reduce that type of expenses, and we
This is
can.
coming out of COA's trust fund?
Yes.
Right, so a couple of things, right? None of this requires us to spend this money. These are effectively,
COA.
was that,
Accruals.
correct me if I'm wrong, we're authorizing expenditures up to this amount if we need to spend this money.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with you, Max, that Jeffrey Zen with the planning board, we need to do that. The challenge with not doing the other two, the COA decisions that keep coming out of the courts are going against municipalities. We've been very fortunate because for the past 3-4 years, we have used these professionals to plan, to plan our process, to make sure our paperwork is filed by court dates, and to make sure we protect the borough. And that's really why we haven't had any builders remedy lawsuits against us. We have money in our COA trust fund that we're trying to spend, and it's even difficult to spend it, waiting for the state's permission. So it's very,
The
and based
question
on
mark
the-
is, can
based
we
on-
do it together?
can we do what together?
Start, pulling together those, who have one lawyer or something, group of lawyer, rather than, can that be in any way done more efficiently?
So, that's a good question. Now, Jeffrey Zen is the attorney for the planning board,
Exactly.
dealing with planning board issues. The folks at, Burgess is the planner, he is not an attorney. And Buzak is an attorney specifically with COA issues, that is his specialization.
Yeah.
And so this being for again, it's up to $20,000, and if we choose to fire these attorneys next month, we can do that. This doesn't bind, correct, right?
It's-
It doesn't bind us to them.
It's just a placeholder.
These are placeholders. We're at a very risky and dangerous time with COA right now.
And the planner right now is working. He is developing the spending plan.
All right. The next group of resolutions are regarding the resolution for public health in nursing services and public health and environmental health services. Now, if you read the resolution, and I read them very carefully, one of them is for, I'm gonna get there in a second.
One is for the health officer, and
Okay,
one is for
one is for,
sanitary
and the other one is
inspecting
for the
services.
nurse. Now, if you look the contract, we paying $18,000 for the nurse, who's gonna be here twice a month, 2 hours. The rest of them is basically creating all kind of documents that they get free from the center and rebroadcasting them. And for that one, they looking at 396 hours. The real functionality for the town is when she is here twice a month, 2 hours. The rest of them are public information services that can be obtained freely from the county, from some other places. We should very carefully look at this one. Now, there are two contracts. One contract for the services, which is recommended by the Environmental Health Services Board, and probably you're there. This one does not say that was recommended by the contract for the nurse. It says that the Board of Tenafly and the Tenafly Board of Health have a need. We all have a need for that. But it doesn't say that was recommended. So I'm asking, if was not recommended, we should find out. If was recommended, then we should find out too, because it's $18,000 really for a nurse that is here twice a month, 2 hours. And that's a very expensive proposition for $18,000.
We have this conversation every year, and you always try to minimize
Absolutely.
and give the impression that this contract is much, much smaller and much less robust than it actually is. There are a whole host of services that are provided. It is so much more than just
I read the
2
contract.
visits a week.
I would like to read the services that they provide, so people can understand how many of those services are really services, and how many of the other services are really just a republication, like giving bulletins about how to take care of your heart, or discussing the diseases in Bergen County. Those are things that are published by the Bergen County Health, which are republished and sent to us via email. So I'll be very glad to go through the contract with you, and you show me the specific activities besides the on-site support that she does that are really creation of her activities, rather than being a rebroadcasting of the information.
They do home visits, they do the flu clinic, they
Right.
do the follow-up flu clinic, because we actually do 2 per year. And, this whole idea where we get into semantics of need versus recommend, of course the Board of Health recommended it.
I'm asking,
So-
was it?
This meeting date, your 26th, wasn't discussed at the last Board of Health meeting.
Okay.
So
It was the meeting before
Yeah.
last,
must have been.
So they do home visits to residents who are homebound?
yes.
So what is, when you say the Board of Health didn't recommend it at the most
Well,
recent
they
meeting, but they did the
they
previous?
recommended it in December.
If they
It
did,
wasn't at that meeting.
in December for this year,
So it is recommended by them?
Yes, that's.
Well,
what-
they work with the Health Awareness Regional Program and follow their recommendation. But at the January meeting, which just took place earlier in the week, this didn't come up. So this,
It came up
the
previously.
previous.
So, okay, and that's both of these issues?
When you say both of these issues.
Both the nursing services and the public health and environmental health services? They're
'Cause
both recommended by?
They have the flu clinics, they have at the same time every year. They're staffed the same way. They have the first one and then they come back and do another one. All of that normal rigmarole was discussed and passed through here months ago.
So has there been any dissension with the group about whether or not these services are needed or shouldn't be approved?
No.
No,
No, okay.
So why, is there a problem?
not from our perspective.
No, well, the question's been raised, so we're discussing it through to see.
There's
If it's
no issue,
recommended.
There's no issue.
Okay, any other issues with it, Max?
no, that's a,
Anyone else have any questions about the consent agenda? Resolutions, excuse me. Okay, any questions about the minutes to be approved?
Well, there was another question about, integrated rat control, was it a public bidding on this one?
Well, it's a $2,000 contract, so that's below the threshold.
I
Well
know
below.
that.
Yeah, so
But it's
probably
still-
not. It's the same vendor from last year?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay, for the good of the order, Max, you're on the list here.
Yep.
About sick leave,
Are we already into the,
unless anyone has questions about the minutes to be approved?
we already in the public meeting?
No.
No, we're still in the work session, but item number 8, go to the order.
Oops, I'm sorry.
You get, just 1 second, give me a chance, we just got, yeah.
What?
Above that, that
Sick
you're in
leave.
a regular meeting,
Okay,
there we go.
all right, okay, all right, so here we go. Everybody that reads the report of the police department every day, you see that every day you have one person taking a sick leave or two, and last Sunday there were 3 taking sick leave. Versus all the other years, we have seen a huge increase in the sick leave request. And everybody knows that facts don't lie, people do. We don't wanna go into alternative facts here. We need to understand the problem and take steps to correct the problem over there. And what I would like to see, what is our policy for sick leave? When do they have to bring doctor notices? If not, do we have to make sure that people that ask for sick leave, do they get a doctor notice? So to make sure that they don't get abused anymore.
Well, first of all, that's a managerial item that gets
Exactly.
dealt with the police chief only. And I assure you that if there was any abuse within the police department, that our police chief is well qualified to address it with the borough administrator. Now, you're walking on a very thin ice when you start dealing with somebody's sick time, because, unless you became a doctor overnight that I didn't realize,
Well,
you
you
better be very, very careful how you approach this, because you're opening yourself up to a real problem, just to let you know ahead of time,
I
okay?
appreciate that, okay, so,
So why don't I suggest this, if I can? Considering everything, all the issues associated with this, perhaps an offline conversation so that you can ask questions of either the chief or Jewel, the administrator, to understand
I'm open to anything.
where it is,
absolutely,
okay?
Right.
Old business,
Uh,
go ahead, Tony.
For the record, I just wanna make sure you understand that the only reason that you're bringing it up is because we get daily reports about the police activities.
absolutely.
Now, certainly, we don't get daily reports about the recreation, we don't get daily reports about the
I can
tax
only
off,
compare,
we don't get those, so,
I can only
again,
compare with
be
the
very, very
reports that we
careful
have,
how,
with the reports we have now, with the reports that we had last year, the year before.
it doesn't matter,
It matters because facts matter.
facts matter.
Exactly, you can't create facts. Facts matter, and if you see that discrepancy, you have to understand it.
Old business, yes, Dan.
The pond.
The
Business
pond, business pond, yes.
Last we discussed, so we've hit some sort of a, I guess, not a brick wall, but in order for us to take the next step to solve that problem, because it is gonna start shrinking, there are more issues. They tried to do their own study in-house, but because it's done in-house and not by, I guess, a certified engineering, whatever, certified person, the studies can't be accepted by most agencies. So like the county won't even look at taking our silt or
So
whatever
what-
we pull out of it.
What do they need from us
So
to
I
help
was
them?
thinking we speak with our engineer, get a estimate of, they sent us one last time, I don't know if you remember, like phase 1, phase 2.
They had multiple phases,
Right.
correct.
If we can go through the first 3 phases.
And how much does that cost?
21.
$21,000. So for 20, so correct me if I'm wrong, for $21,000, we would have an understanding from an engineering perspective of
Yes,
what the options are there,
by all state standards.
by all state standards.
Right,
And
'cause it's done
once we
by-
understand and we meet, and we have a qualified engineer do that, and we spend the
Then
$21,000.
all options are open.
In terms of what? What kind of options?
Can it be hydro raked? If it's dredged, who can take the soil cheap? If it's dredged, can we get, or not if it's dredged, I'm sorry. If it's, once we get soil samples tested according to state standards, can the county take it? Maybe because of their overpack site is federally protected or whatever the guidelines are. We need to know that info to go to the next step, rather than doing it in-house.
So, I mean, my personal opinion is, we go around the table here, is that we probably need to be a little bit more, I'm not sure if the word is aggressive, but maybe a little more
Proactive.
aggressive and proactive in
Proactive.
terms of
Proactive,
what we do up there. Why don't we go around the table, everyone voice their opinion?
okay. Is it my turn?
Yes, we'll go from the
All
left,
right.
sure.
So, the last thing we wanna do is make a decision by indecision, which means we're gonna let it go, and it becomes really a swamp and we can't do anything anyhow. I would even consider, if they want, to basically look at the hydro racking.
Not
Just-
until we get the
Let's,
studies done,
listen for a second, which is gonna buy them 2 to 3 year time.
maybe more.
It may be more. Then they can do whatever study they want in time. It's no pressure. Based on my observation, because there was a gentleman, Jerry Niger, that you know, who brought some people, hydro racking is gonna be around $35,000. That might be at $35,000 well served, and I would consider even, we have part of that from our, you know,
Problem with that is where you throw out the stuff, without knowing what's in it, the bioorganic, the silt,
we don't take out the silt, you only take the
it mixes in.
it mixes in.
So wherever it's going, you have to know what's in it, so it can go somewhere.
So even the hydro raking cannot be
It's
done
good to know.
without, okay. So maybe we can help them
And you
with
need, and you
the,
need depth samples, that's why.
maybe we can help them with the decision on whatever, you know, to have this one, because we don't wanna have a decision by indecision.
Well, if we don't do
No, you need
something,
a study.
if you don't do something, just the time will take its toll and it will be
That's
gone.
where, that's
Exactly.
where the,
Now,
that's
so-
where we're stuck,
so-
the study part.
Unless someone in
info.
this room is an engineer and understands hydrology and geology, I think we need to consider investing the money in an engineer to get the proper studies so that then we can go down the right paths here.
Can we look at a 50-50 type of partnership?
Sure,
Help
does the Nature Center have any money? Do they have,
That I don't
They
know.
have
That I-
35,000.
they have how much?
35,000 for this year's budget
They have
Yeah,
that- that we
35,000
give them.
We give them.
that we give them.
Right.
that we give them, so it's all our money.
Yeah, but wait, that 35,000 is for their
Education.
operational
It's
purposes.
overall.
Certainly not to put $35,000 into taking care of a pond.
So just to throw this
Right.
out there, is anyone interested in having a public hearing or using, for the purpose of using this $21,000 out of the Open Space Trust Fund?
What I would say, yeah, part of it, I would be in agreement to have maybe 50%. We do 50%, they do 50%. I would be very willing to that.
Paul?
I think we should proceed with doing the tests. It sounds like the basis of what we're gonna work with is a report that's certified, that says this is what you've got. Cause obviously, we can kind of tell on our own, but if, nobody will do the work or give us grants,
Dan?
because the stuff isn't certified, we need to get to that point.
Dan?
If we're allowed to use open space money, I don't know what kind of.
It would be eligible.
It would be for sure eligible,
We
yeah.
gotta find out
Conservation.
what we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, conservation.
Tony, your thoughts?
It's our property, 100% should come from open space. We shouldn't be asking the Nature Center for any monies at all.
Okay, so how do we get this on the agenda for an open space public hearing?
It would be an ordinance, it would be introduced at one meeting, and then the public hearing would be at the subsequent meeting.
Okay, in the meantime, I think we should have an understanding of their economic situation up there,
Mhm.
so that if we decide to fully fund this, at least we know it's because it's the right thing to do and there's not an extra pile of cash sitting somewhere. So what meeting would we have, what,
Well, we would need a figure to put in there, would we put in, because this estimate was from 2015.
Last summer.
so
No,
Dan,
2
Dan,
summers, I'm
summers
sorry.
ago.
Dan, can you act as a conduit of information from the Nature Center to Lizette to get her number this week?
Well, that was from Mazer.
No, we need a Mazer study.
I
Amazing
can,
number.
I can ask Mazer to
Okay, that's fine.
update the estimate.
Okay,
And then what we could do, like we did with, the Oresco Park, put an up to amount, so
That's
that
fine.
way you have a cushion, but you don't spend it all.
right, exactly. Okay. Any other old business? Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn, the work session and to open up the regular public meeting inside?
So,
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, see you inside.
Yes.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Notice of this meeting via the January 11th, 2017 Sunshine Notice has been sent to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and has been posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Here.
Councilmember Bash?
Here.
Councilmember Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Stefanowicz?
Here.
Councilmember Zena?
Here. And for the record again, Mayor Russin is still ill, so we hope he recovers very soon. Minutes to be approved, do I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I cannot vote on the 2017 reorganization meeting.
Aye. Revisions to the agenda?
Or none.
Okay, public comments, we're gonna go around the room, we'll start over here, do you have any public comments?
Johanna Gambrell, Ravine Road, Tenafly. I wasn't going to speak, but then Andrew came and spoke from his wheelchair. And I've been wondering when to bring up the issue I had about the handicap spots in the municipal parking lot on Washington Street. Andrew said there is a law in New Jersey, he stated the number, but I can't remember now, that you're not allowed to dump the snow into the handicap spots. That is an actual law. And for years, I've been faced with going in there, trying to find a place to park, and the snow is in the handicap spots, or, in this last snowstorm we had, they didn't even clean them. So I parked, and I had to get out on the slippery snow, and it was a slippery snow. And I thought, and I called the, I forget which, maybe it was the maybe it was the police, I don't know. And I said, but why weren't, all the other spots were cleaned, why weren't the handicap spots cleaned? And they said, well, because the truck, can't back up right, and it couldn't get into the corner, and so it couldn't clean them. Well, I'm sorry. We have to do something about that. It's not right. And also, when the streets are clean, there's no access to the sidewalk for a person who is handicapped. And if there's one rule of handicapped people, it's that you want to be normal, but you're not. You want to look normal, so you try to. And it's not right. It has to be fixed, and I don't know what to do about it. Who's going to enforce that law?
Well, you brought it up, so thank you for bringing it up, and I think Administrator Jewell,
Writing it down.
yeah, we'll have a conversation with Bob Colbert, who runs the DPW, and he said it was the parking lot specifically on Washington Street.
Yeah, the handicap
So,
spots.
we'll have that
And the
conversation.
access to the
Yeah.
sidewalk, it really, there are a lot of people who would like to be out and can be out, but if you can't get through the ice or get out of your car.
Right, okay. We will speak with DPW.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. Public comments going around the room? Yes, sir.
Yes, Council President, I have a comment on Resolution R 17-59 in light of Councilman Bash's comments. From what I can gather, the borough's gonna be spending over $18,000 a year for nursing services twice a month for a total of 2 hours each time. It comes to 48 hours for the whole year for $18,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. I think the Councilman Bash has a point, and I'd like to have the council address this issue in light of $360 an hour for a nurse.
Right, so Jewel, maybe you wanna jump in here, but it's more than just, we discussed at the
I
table
mean,
here.
I understand that, but that's all it says here, but it doesn't, it's not that, if you can, detail it to make it a
Sure,
little more,
sure.
There, more information.
The resolutions contain the whole entire contract, which is about 10, 12 pages long, and Councilman Bausch has brought up a very good point, and as the administrator indicated,
It has
that,
an extensive scope of.
right, so I mean,
services.
Jewel, I don't know if you wanna go down the list a little bit?
Well,
or-
are you relating to us as a resident or as a reporter?
As a reporter, because
Then you can Oprah a copy
All
of
right,
the
I'll-
contract,
what's the title of the document?
nursing services.
Public
All right.
health
Heart,
nursing
heart
services.
nursing,
Nursing
Public
services.
health
Okay, thank you very much.
nursing services.
Okay, go ahead, Christine?
Christine Efron, President of the Chamber of Commerce, 39 Leroy Street. Thank you very much for the parking regulation trial. We appreciate it a lot.
You're welcome. Public comments, anything?
I mean, somebody comes here and says, thank you? Oh my God,
Oh, excuse me,
I
I'm so
can't
sorry.
believe it.
Can we adjourn?
Wow, holy moly.
Blame him for something there.
Must be a
Bounce
plant by Max, I think.
You should be
Okay.
happy to get somebody
Oh,
to
stop.
say thank you.
Okay, could I
I
have,
don't know why they don't say
are we
that.
ready to move on? Any more public comments? We're gonna close public comment? Okay, get a motion on the consent agenda, please.
Can I ask to have the resolution R 1759 be separate?
Yes, of course.
Thank
Is
you.
that,
Okay, so I just need a motion for all the other resolutions except 1759.
So moved.
second?
Second.
Alright. Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowitz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes.
Okay, before discussion, I need a motion and a second to, for 1759.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay. I could discuss.
You wanna discuss, Max, or you just wanna vote separately?
I think we vote separately. and
Okay, so
discuss
call the
it.
roll, please.
Okay, Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
No.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowitz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes. Okay, committee reports, Tony, we'll start to the right now.
None, sir. I shouldn't say that. Fire department's been very busy. They actually had a house fire.
Where?
Actually, a business fire on Franklin Street. I don't remember the number. Excuse me.
The electrical fire?
Huh?
The electrical fire?
Let's go fire, yeah.
Anyone hurt or anything?
No, but unfortunately, it took public service a good amount of time to get there when they called them to come and take care of the service and all, so.
Real, how long did it take?
I think over an hour to get there, so.
So our own-
Really?
Our own guys had to act.
And cut the gas off?
Oh, the electric, so
Oh, the electric.
our guys did, as always, the fire department does.
Was it the one on the 22nd? The one that transformed the blew up?
No, no,
up
it was
here?
actually inside the building,
Oh, okay,
so, on
because
Franklin Street.
the one on the 22nd of Piermont blew up my TV.
It did?
Yes,
What do you mean?
it was a surge.
Oh.
That's why you should have a surge protector.
It's
But, you know what they say, live and learn, right?
The whole block. Yeah, I saw that.
Dan, committee reports?
Environmental committee met. I think everything is going well there. Nothing major. No, that's it.
Paul?
The Board of Health met on the 19th, and I know it seems to come up every year that influenza and the flu germs are high for the year. They're high early, high in New Jersey, but Bergen County seems to be especially hit. Again, it seems every year they say the flu's bad, but they actually presented me with the figures, and the number of documented cases in Bergen County are quite high. So they'd like to let everybody know it's not too late to get a flu vaccine, even consider getting it right through March or April. CVS has them, and if they don't want to get one, to reconsider, because this is a difficult year, but apparently the vaccine is a good one.
Okay.
They've asked, the Board of Health has asked us to put something in the newsletter.
Correct.
And we
Right.
will,
Yes,
for
perfect.
February.
Thank you.
Max?
I'm sorry, I could not attend, I was not here for the meeting,
Oh,
for
okay.
the senior citizen.
When does newsletter come out, Jewel, and when's the deadline for it?
The first week in February, the deadline, we have the warming center article, we have that.
Okay, thank you.
New business, anyone?
Tony brought this up. This is a sample of the fake ice. This isn't exactly the product the county uses. This is called,
Yeah.
it's fake ice. This is just a sample of what it could be,
And how does that get used?
regular skates.
And you skate on this with like
Yeah.
regular,
With
like,
ice skates.
Yeah,
Really?
Take your key to it.
it's, there are two
So-
types, there are two types, and one of them it's even more because they,
This is very low
But-
quality. This is the worst one.
Yeah.
The county happens to have a sample and it's from Parks Department.
and there is one that it's covered with, like with
Kids are sharp.
lanolin, and that's really, really very,
And where would we set this up?
Wherever,
On the courts,
on Oresco Park, so you don't mess up the courts, wherever.
that's great.
That's very nice.
So,
I will tell you that, I'm telling you that when I saw it used at Van Son Park, it was
so
unbelievable.
if you have like a 4-year-old,
Unbelievable.
you're
I am
wearing
telling you.
sneakers with the kids in skates.
Fantastic. It was the busiest part of the whole park.
Yeah, that's great.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Really? Regular ice skates.
Regular ice skates.
Regular
yeah,
ice skates.
regular.
So what's your suggestion with this? What do we do?
So this is just a preliminary, because the county ran their winter wonderland the first year, this year, they still have their plates. They're just gonna store them. So they have way better plates. They're very expensive.
But
So-
is there a proposition for us to use it someplace? I mean, you
Why
brought
don't we
it for a
use,
reason.
test it out and set
let's
it up?
say- Right. So let's say they run their Wonderland December 15th to January 15th like they did this year. In their off season, we could maybe set it up somewhere in town, run a,
They will lend it to us?
Well, listen, you know,
this is very preliminary. I've only had a short
certainly
conversation.
growing up in Tenafly as a kid, Roosevelt Commons, the pond, was the ideal spot to go
Yeah.
ice skating every
Right.
year. That was the place to go. But now because of the conditions of the pond and all, and, you know,
It never gets
global warming
hard
thanks to
enough, right?
Al Gore, I think this would be an ideal situation in the tennis courts. I
It's
mean,
very cool.
we can get, why couldn't we use the trust
tennis
fund?
court might be
You're
tough.
not talking, and it's a one-time buy, and it's a win-win. This is fantastic.
It's great. I mean, Dan, I think we need to, let's test it out.
But we
Dan,
have to understand what we wanna do.
Right,
Yeah.
when it was set up in Van Son Park, where was it?
I believe it was on grass. I believe.
They set up
Oh yeah, it was definitely on grass.
yeah,
100% on grass.
like and they had lights, and I'm telling you, it was
This is the
fantastic.
lowest quality one.
Well,
That's the
okay,
only-
no,
that's
it's just
the-
that so far, all of the recommendations have been coated surfaces. This doesn't look like it would be
Exactly.
kind to our coated surfaces.
No, not at all. That's why.
The
it's
coded
very
services are
preliminary.
much better.
Listen, we could put this on the AstroTurf, right?
You-
It's not gonna hurt the
I
AstroTurf,
wouldn't
right?
want it.
No, I don't think so.
So what's
It
the
will
next step, Dan?
completely-
We'll put it on, how about,
The blades will kill.
I'm not talking
Sunnyside
about
Park?
this year. I'm not
Put it
doing
on
this now.
Sunnyside Park.
I'm talking about next winter.
How about
So-
Sunnyside Park, and build a,
Yeah.
just like they did there
Yeah.
at Van
Yeah,
Son, they
that's
built
a
a,
That was one
like a
piece.
cage
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
And they
Oh,
did,
this is
it's
fantastic.
fantastic.
The two of these were one
We
piece,
can
I
put
think.
it in the
Cut it
cage
out.
where we have the
Aesthetic ice.
bicycle, the,
That's basically how they go together,
that
yeah.
cage,
but
we can put it over there.
This is the other side.
All right,
Right,
okay,
right,
everyone,
yeah, yeah.
let's get back focused again. So Dan,
Fantastic.
my next question, what's the next step here, timing, to test it out?
Test what out?
To put it up somewhere, borrow from the county, you said the county has it available, and go ice skating.
physical rink setup in town.
Yeah, test it out, even a small one.
The soccer cage,
It seems everyone likes it.
the soccer cage, we can make the soccer cage.
No,
So
no, wait,
make- so make
seriously, why
something-
don't we just go to Sunnyside and do a little
Oh, geez,
demo
that's a
there at
great
Sunnyside?
idea.
Yeah, well,
And just
we
Yeah.
have to
we're
build,
right there.
yeah, we have to build a enclosure.
Fantastic
Great
idea.
All right, so you'll make some, Dan, you'll make inquiries with the county?
Yeah,
Okay,
I will find out more.
all right.
It's
so we'll follow up
expensive
on that
though.
one.
And you gonna put it
It's
Sunnyside,
expensive.
No, I
Councilman?
wouldn't say.
Well, we're
it's not
gonna
that
talk
Think
about
about
it,
it.
we're gonna talk about it, yes.
Waivers now is the only issue.
I wouldn't make that a, that's not a
Listen,
decision.
if
We
the
just-
county can
possibility.
foot the bucks for it, Tenafly can certainly do it, okay?
Okay.
Come on now.
So Dan,
Easy.
No, no.
all right, Dan's gonna report back with the
Good
ice.
job,
Yeah.
good job. That's great.
Okay, any other new business? Okay, the mayor's remarks today is an Arbor Day proclamation, which I will read. The Borough of Tenafly proclamation, whereas the last Friday of April, which is April 28th, 2017, is designated as National Arbor Day, which is a day set aside to promote the planting of trees, tree conservancy, and appreciation of our environment. And whereas the Borough of Tenafly has promoted tree conservancy and planting for many years, and whereas trees in our community increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our borough, and whereas the Borough of Tenafly has been recognized as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly do proclaim April 28th, 2017 as Arbor Day, and urge all citizens to celebrate this day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, January 24th, 2017. Do I have a motion to adjourn the public meeting and go into closed session?
Look, what we just do is I do a resolution.
Do the
about closed
resolution,
session.
please, sorry.
Resolved in compliance with NGSA 10:12, Mayor and Council, going to closed session to discuss the following matters. First one is, one's attorney-client privilege, dealing with just an update on our potential property acquisitions that will be short. And the second is actually a litigation matter, and that's regarding the new litigation entitled Rivera versus Borough of Tenafly. That deals with access to an Oprah request accessing police records. And also we have a collective bargaining matter. It's just gonna be an update on our contract negotiations that Jul's gonna give us. And this will be taken in this meeting, released to the public at the time the matters are resolved. After this closed executive session, the mayor and council will reconvene here in this Richard D. Wilson Committee room to adjourn this public meeting.
Motion to go into close?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Alright.